to be seen or not to be seen? That's the question. Or is it? Well, we've all had days where we feel overlooked, unseen, unnoticed, maybe. The world rushes by and you can't help but wonder, do people really hear my voice? Does Yahweh really hear my voice? Do people understand me? Does he understand me? Or do they understand my perspective, where I'm coming from? Do they even speak the same language as me? So, but here's the other thing. Sometimes we hide because we don't want to be seen. So we want to be hidden away where nobody sees us, to just sort of fade away. And sometimes that's a mentality brought, both of those things are mentalities brought about by different things that have gone on in our lives. And so when you hide behind protective shells, usually you're the one that's constructed them, you're the one that's built them up, and then you wonder why nobody sees you. Well, nobody sees me. Well, nobody sees you sometimes because you hid. Other times it's because you think that you're overlooked. That by Yahweh, by other people. Does he hear my cry? Does Yah hear my cry? Does he see the predicament I'm in? Does he not understand it's ripping me apart? And truly, to be seen means you are vulnerable, but you think you're not seen. Well, let's look throughout history, biblical history, and we're going to take a female perspective today, but it's not really a female perspective. I'm going to use female examples because we have so many that were crying out that probably had that very same question. Can you hear me? Do you see me? Do you not see the predicament I'm in? And why am I being overlooked? I've seen favor granted to so many other people, but not me. Not me. So let's look at Hannah. Well, what was happening there? She couldn't have a kid. 1 Samuel 1:19 through 20. You can read just a few verses of that story, but she was being persecuted by others. She hadn't had a child. She was crying out. For years she suffered with infertility and the desire to have a child. But the agony she grew every time the other wife, Peninnah, what did she get? She made fun of her, gave her cruel glances, all sorts of things. And then you have Elizabeth. Elizabeth was also crying out, I want a child, and she had the miracle of conception as well. You look at that in Luke. And then you have people from the other side who gave birth to something, Hagar, who actually said, I know the God who sees me. In fact, in the story, she was the one actually listening to him. She was the one walking in obedience, but she was the slave. She was the servant. She was the lesser so-called character, though she's not. In the story, there were other main characters, Abraham, Sarah, or Sarai, Abram. You see them and they have a much more play in our life, in our story, yes. And so oftentimes the one who serves is unnoticed. The one who gives is unnoticed. Yeah, there were problems she created too. But in each of these situations and more, we could go through a whole list, men and women who were in situations saying, hey, do you not see the predicament I'm in? Do you not see how I've suffered? Do you not see that I have been asking and begging for you, Yah, to show your hand? People out there, do you not see that I need somebody to step in and intervene? Do you want to be seen? Do you not want to be seen? You need to think about that. So let's look at these lies for just a minute. Let's specifically go to Hagar. Yes, she was in despair. She was hopeless. She was weary. She was alone. She was in a society, male dominated, but she was in a situation where she didn't have control. She was the pawn, so to speak, in the story. Yes, there were things that transpired that she shouldn't have done as well, but she still was at somebody else's mercy. And so you look at her life and you're like, oh, is my life reflected in hers or Elizabeth or Hannah or David or all these others? Well, absolutely. We can look at different situations in our lives. And sometimes we may feel like Yah is not hearing me, that we're in this desert place. We've been driven out and we're in this desert place. And then he, of all things, tells us to go back to where we came from, back to the place where it was hard, where we were pressed, Why? Because something's about to be birthed. Oftentimes in those places when we seem to feel overlooked, when we feel, and notice I'm saying feel, when we feel like our prayers are unanswered, like nobody, whether it's Yahweh or anyone else, is hearing us, there's something about to be birthed within us. And that travail must happen first. And to run from the travail will only lead us to another place of more travail, but different and an added situation. Think of Sarah. She added to the issue when she took matters into her own hands. Hagar tried to run away from the problem, tried to run away from the persecution, tried to run away, and she was told to go back. Hannah got on her face and said, hey, I'm going to leave this to Yah, and I'm going to see how he can, if he will hear my voice. I know he will, and she's accused of being drunk. Well, she was really walking in the spirit, speaking in an unknown language, so to speak, but she was heard. Hagar was heard. They were seen. Yah took note. He always does. You can't hide from him. He knows what you're going through. And we can learn a lot from the lessons. No matter who we are, no matter where we are, Yah sees us and he knows us. And we can't run away from the problems because that's not the answer. Even if we've made mistakes, he still sees us. Even if we feel overlooked, he still sees us. Even if we're hiding, he still sees us. He's everywhere. He is everywhere. And our eyes need to be open to him. We need to truly understand who he is. And if we realize with Hagar herself, now we go back to the story of Keturah. Rashi makes a very compelling case that Keturah and Hagar are the same. Well, if Keturah and Hagar are the same, then we see Yah not only answer and take care of her in the desert, in the wilderness, and Ishmael grow to be great nations himself, we see her reunited with Abraham. And if that is true, if Keturah and Hagar are one and the same, which some tradition does say that, then we see other children, other nations being birthed from her as well. So we see in her faithfulness, Yah brought her to joy during the final years of her life. There was vindication and there was an acceptance. People who've lived a difficult life, but remain true to him, you're going to see victory as well. We know that. I know you may have heard that before, but you may need to hear it today. 1 Corinthians 2:9 says, but as it is written, I have not seen nor ears heard, neither have entered into the heart of a man the things which Yah hath prepared for them that love him. Hagar teaches us that if we truly love Yah, he's prepared something wonderful for us. Well, the perseverance of Elizabeth, the perseverance of Hannah, we see that Yah has something prepared to them. So when life becomes too painful to bear, we can't find strength in remembering other things, we need to remember that Yah is faithful and true. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he is the one who sees. Yes, he is the one who sees. In Hebrew, we study this phrase, El Roi, which Hagar named Yah, a God of seeing, the God who sees me. You are the God who watches over me. All of these things. We study this many times over because he is the one who sees us. He is the one who understands us. Uh, you know, when he can't rule a situation, he overrules it. He always accomplishes his purposes, sometimes despite us. It may take longer because we're fighting him, but he sees us and hears our cry. Now, there's a Greek word that's equivalent to this, Elroy, and it's aphoreo, and it means to gaze upon, to fix one's gaze on, to regard, to show concern. In this case of Yah's concern for Hagar in the dire straits, or for any of the others. And it comes from the root epidon, which is used with Elizabeth. And you look at both of these situations, again, something is about to be birthed. Something is about to be birthed within you. So tribulation must come. So, but all of this phrase conveys this sense of Yah's presence. It conveys this sense, like with Elizabeth, it includes his assurance. When he sees you, there is perfect provision. Yes, I said perfect provision. We see Israel when they were crying out to Yah, do you see us? Do you hear us? Look, we're enslaved as a people. He heard them. He heard their cry. When Yeshua was at the garden, his cry was heard. So if you're under the hand of a hard taskmaster, or if you think that you've been unseen and you've been working with great effort to try to accomplish something and everything seems to be going wrong, and you're persecuted for what you believe, you're persecuted for your stance, you're persecuted for your vision, Yah sees you. If that vision was given to you by Yah, he's going to make sure it comes to fruition, but the tribulation comes. But we can rest. We can rest in knowing that he sees us beyond anything we could know or understand. A.W. Tozer says the doctrine of God's omnipresent is a great central truth of Scripture. God is present near me, next to me, and this God sees me and knows me through and through. Faith begins, well, it may go on to include 1,000 other wonderful truths. These all refer back to the truth that God is, and God is here. He is the one who sees. He is the one who has complete provision. He gazes upon you. His presence is there. We may not feel it, but are we going to be moved by our feelings or by the word that said he is there? Are we going to be moved by our circumstances or stand upon the truth of his word, knowing he's given me this thing and he will be with me along the way, no matter how painful or no matter how overlooked it seems to be, how I have become the object of ridicule, Yah is still with me. And we've got to remember, as the discussion we had earlier with Mark and I had earlier, we are different than everybody else because we do serve the Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We love Yeshua. We follow his commands. We are alien, which this show was originally started. The whole thing started with we're not really from here anymore, are we? Right? We are only visiting this planet. And that was the premise of this show all along. And it was fun and it was great. But we need to remember that is not our destination. Where we're sitting and where we're at, that's not our destination. We have another destination. And in the midst of tribulation, it will increase. But there is something being birthed within you. So take hold, take heart. Don't lose vision. Don't let the cares of the world overwhelm you. Don't get distracted either. That's another thing. Don't get distracted because he sees your cries. He has an answer. Something amazing is about to be birthed, but guess what the enemy wants to do? He wants to get you to abort that thing because you're dwelling on the things that you're overseen, overlooked, that you're hiding away so nobody can see you. Either way, to be seen or not to be seen. Don't allow that to happen, because there's plans and purposes he wants to fulfill within you, within his plan. He wants to participate with you in his plan. He has that provision for you, but sometimes you have to walk it out, the hard stuff. You have to go back to that place of difficulty. You have to go back to that place of persecution, but you'll survive. In fact, you will thrive because your trust is not in man, but your trust is in him. Your faith is in Yah. Your faith is in Yeshua and his word. You wield the weapons he's given you. You wield praise. You wield his word. You wield those things. You proclaim, you declare, you praise over the situation. You change your perspective and say, Father, let me see this situation from your perspective. Let me see my persecutor from your perspective, or my persecutors, and realize that something good is coming, and something good is already there because you have been seen. No matter how you've tried to hide, no matter how you feel you've been overlooked, Yah sees you. He knows you, and he's placed that thing within you. Stand on the promise and expect the answer. Mark, you can come on in.
I was trying. I couldn't get my mouse in the right place. Oh, expect. Okay. Yeah, I expect. Come on, God. I expect you to do everything. And, no matter what it is, I expect you, Father. You grow into a, place where, and we talked about this at Sukkot a lot, is that we grow into a day-to-day, hour-to-hour life. it's a lifestyle. It's just what we learn with the Lord, but it takes time to learn these things and to learn how to expect the Lord to, do what he said he's going to do. To, if he places something in our heart and we're going to live that out, we expect the Lord to honor that, but it takes time. And I think, especially with me, I used to be known as 100-mile-an-hour man. Now I'm more of like 33-mile-an-hour man. You expect it right now. You expect it, Lord. You said you were going to do this, or I expect this, and to be seen. Interesting concept you have there, Sandy. There's so many different ways that you can look at that physically, spiritually, being seen. Obviously, on the Lamb Network, I bring people in that have the gift of gab and want to be seen with their message because they have a message type of thing. And then there are people on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, like my wife, that you'll never see. You might be able to find a picture of her within the Lamb Network when you can go see pictures of all the producers and stuff. You can see a picture of her, but you're never going to see her on camera. And she doesn't even want to be known spiritually. She just wants to live for the Lord and pray, and that's why she's the prayer producer. Because she can be behind the scenes. And yet sometimes I think the people that are behind the scenes are more important than the people that are in front of the camera. She is in my life. Her being behind the scenes and working Lamb the way she does, and the ministry that we do. And my wife, she doesn't want to be where anybody can recognize her even, and you think of it both spiritually and physically. There's a dynamic there. There's a personality. There's a perspective there that we have to recognize, and the Lord does recognize. I want to be. I like being in front of the camera, in that I like being with people and I like discussing people. My favorite shows, have always been discussion shows. As long as I can be on with somebody else, I don't want to do a show by myself. I want to be on with somebody else and discuss, but it's not so much being seen as through the years, we find that some of us have more to say than others. And then we have some people that have a lot to say that should never be heard. I even put that down in my notes over here while you were talking about people seen and heard. And I thought, well, there's people that should never be seen or heard. But, and they're the ones, a lot of times they're the ones that want to be seen and heard the most. And you've heard me say that, through the years, we're now in our 12th year of broadcasting on Lamb, and it's always the ones that come to me and say, hey, can I do a show on the Lamb Network? And if I allow them to do it, then there's nothing but problems from day one. And it's always not physical problems. It's everything. It's the problems of their message and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's rare that I ever let anybody on. I gotta know everything about your ministry. And so that's why I say it's the Lord, as long as we stay in tune and we live our life with the Lord, I like to say it that way. It's not, we live it for the Lord. We live it, to bless people and all this kind of stuff. But I live my life with the Lord. It's just, the Lord is just a part of everything I do and how I think and where I go and all that kind of stuff. It's only when you get to that point in your life that you're really secure. When you're battling whether or not you should do this or you should do that, or what kind of life, what should I study, what should I be, when you're constantly battling all those things to try to make your life work, then you're struggling, and you're not really living the way the Lord wants you to live, because he wants us to be comfortable in our lifestyle and who we are and how things are. Like we were saying, the first half of the show, we're talking about the world and how it's just all kagu and everything. It's like it's like that's not the way that it's supposed to be, and we don't sometimes realize that we're here to try to balance things the best we can, because if there's and of course everything is out of balance, but if we weren't here, then it's time to destroy the world. So we have to be here. We have to be public. We have to be seen, and we have to be heard. And no matter what the Lord has shown us and how to be and everything, we have to be that way. We have to be. Otherwise, the world has nothing to fall back on. And so anyway, that's the way I see it.
It's good. That's good.
It's good. It's very good.
It's good. New word. Need to put it on a flashcard. I've been making a lot of flashcards lately. So.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So, well, let's see. Social media. My gosh, man! Social media has just brought out people that should never be heard.
True that.
It's just like social media has just exploded all the being seen and heard things in the world, and it's just I guess the way it has to be in these last days. It's so funny because in my early days of serving the Lord, I was told that there is a scripture, but that says, "In the last days, all will be seen," or something like that. I don't know what it was, but I've never found that scripture. I know that there will be things that we'll be able to see, and today we can see what's happening in real time anywhere in the world. That type of thing, but not necessarily does it need to be seen.
True.
So here we go. All right. We're only doing an hour show now, and we're done. I forget that we're right there. So
we are.
We are.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Those who watch now and later.
Yes. And we will be back next week.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week. So Shalom. God bless.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
be dancing.